The 5 Ds: diapers, divorce, diamonds, debt, and death.
There you go.
5D.
Don't just host one open house, not get a sale, and then give up. Or don't just post on Facebook one time and your phone's not ringing off the hook. You have to make a plan.
To the Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez, where we talk everything real estate. Today, my guests are Jeff George and George Maynes. Jeff, George, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Pat.
Okay, I always start off the shows by asking, how did you get started in real estate? George, why don't you lead off with that first question?
Well, I think I was in my early 20s, 2005, 2006, and I was actually living in my mom and my aunt's basement at the time.
There you go.
And
Cliche.
That's not information. I don't know.
And I had just started working for the city, had a government service job. I was a juvenile probation officer, had a little bit of free time on my hands, wanted a little bit more. And I was getting ready to buy my first home, and I knew a lot of my friends and family would be doing the same thing. Jeff had just purchased his home about a year prior. So I decided to get my real estate license, really just to work with family and friends, and it kind of took off. And
Now, let me ask this question real quick, not to interrupt. Now, did you start off on the Fairmount, the Art Museum office, or where'd you start?
I did not. So Jeff actually, like I mentioned, had just purchased his first home. So I called Jeff and I said, Jeff, who did you use as your realtor? And he said, I used this broker, Mike Foley. He was awesome. And so I called Mike and I said, hey, Mike, I'm getting my real estate license. Can I come work for you? And he said, he brought me in.
Right.
And, great guy, really great mentor for me. And that was with a small brokerage called Prudential Prime Real Estate. They're actually still in Northeast Philly, doing pretty well. But I learned a lot from Mike. The first couple of years were really slow, but I would just go in the office and talk to Mike and listen to the other agents. And then it took a couple of years, but then things, picked up for me. And I decided the government service job, although I loved it,
Right.
just wasn't what I was meant to do for the rest of my life.
Okay. And Jeff, what was your story?
I feel like George kind of summed it up. Like I graduated in 2002, Temple University with a business degree. The job market at that time, we were in a little recession. There weren't really that many decent jobs out there. I got an offer to sell Xerox machines. Really wasn't what I was looking to do. A friend of ours, his father, said, hey, Jeff, you just graduated. I know you took a lot of math courses. You're good with numbers. We're dying for math teachers down at this charter school, the Franklin Town Charter School. I said, you know what? Let's do it. I jumped in. I was teaching high school mathematics and business at the age of 21.
Right.
I really did love it. Did that for about 10 years. And the sticking point for me was I would teach this business course. A lot of the kids grew up in Fishtown, Port Richmond, Bridesburg, and they would see their neighborhoods blowing up and developing. And they would ask a lot of questions, and we were teaching finance. So we would talk about mortgages and development. So I would have these kids literally pick a property on their block or in the area and pretend like we were developing it. And they would ask and say, hey, Mr. George, are you doing this? You're pretty good at this. How many houses do you have? What are you doing? And I kind of felt like a clown. I'm like, no, I don't do that. It's kind of, people joke around, I forget the exact terms, like those that can't do, teach. Right. And I felt like I'm just teaching people how to do something I don't do. So I jumped in. George jokes around because I would text him. This is when texts were really starting to blow up. And I would say, hey, I saw this house for $11,000 on the outskirts of Fishtown. Can we go check it out? He's like, my commission's going to be 4 cents in this one. Right. Hey, George, can we go to the sheriff's sale? He's like, oh, God, leave me alone. So he convinced me to get my license to get me off of his back. Now here we are.
Right.
So by me kind of buying these kind of houses that were dilapidated and falling apart, it really kind of helped me learn about developing, building my career. And even social media, posting before and after pics, it really kind of allowed me to blow my business up. And the really cool thing about teaching was that these kids that I taught how to develop and how to build, they come to me and say, hey, Mr. George, can you help me buy something?
Right.
So I never thought I'd be helping these kids, now young adults, buy and sell properties.
Right.
And some of them actually went through you to get these deals done. So that's pretty cool.
And the thing is, I interview agents all the time, and I think teachers are the most the business before going into real estate, or if they're part-time, like the teaching, I don't know what it is with that, but that's like the number one job.
Teachers and bartenders.
Bartenders there, you're right.
I think having the summers off helped a little bit.
Yeah.
And like I said, I love teaching. I just didn't want to do it every single day, 5-6 periods
Right.
per day. And I think if all goes well and I keep doing what I'm doing in the real estate world, in my late 50s, maybe early 60s, I will get back into teaching.
We'll see.
Just to kind of like share knowledge. But I wouldn't want to teach algebra or geometry. I would only want to teach business, finance, and the world that we're succeeding in.
Right. Okay, so now I have another question. G2 Philly, G2 Jersey. How did that name come about? Where did G2? Good.
So we were originally branded as the Maynes Group, and Jeff says he got his license to kind of do his own like deals and flips and rental properties. But his career, as far as sales and helping buyers and sellers, really was taking off fast. And I know Jeff was working his full-time job, so we never considered ourselves part-time agents, even when we had full-time jobs. But Jeff did have another job, and I just saw how his career was skyrocketing, and I kind of gave him the nudge a little bit to we say burn the boat and get in the real estate, go all in with real estate, and he was doing so well, and we kind of started to talk about, hey, we need to kind of rebrand. Let's take this to another level. At the time, we just had a couple part-time agents, and we're floating around some ideas on rebranding, and our name, George Maynes and Jeff George. So we thought, G2 something, and
Right.
we thought maybe we could do G2 Philadelphia, G2 Bucks County, G2 Montgomery County, and we kind of landed with G2 Philly and G2 Jersey, and it kind of caught on. People seem to like it, and it's working.
No, and it makes sense. Absolutely. And that's pretty good.
Being a math nerd, I originally pushed G squared.
Right.
His wife and my wife were like, all right, stop. Let's move on.
Next. Okay, so you deal with buyers, sellers, New Jersey, Philadelphia, the surrounding counties. So you have a pretty large footprint as far as that's concerned. So let me ask you this. What are sellers? What is the main motivation for sellers? What are they looking for? What's making them say, okay, it's time to sell a house? Let's buy a new one.
Yeah, I think sellers are moving for the same reasons they always have. Kids, divorce, death,
These.
better.
Very morbid.
Yeah.
Better schools.
Right.
They need more space, and less space, something like that. I think the thing that's holding some sellers back is this, the fact that it's a seller's market, but being a buyer out there can be kind of tough.
Right.
So a lot of people are maybe waiting to sell because they're unsure about where they're going to buy.
Let me ask this question real quick. Do you think the biggest thing that's holding people back is the fact that they think they may have trouble finding a new house? Is that a bigger reason, or the fact that they may have a 3% interest rate? What do you think?
Well, I think last year I would say rates were more of an issue. I think people now have kind of come around to, hey,
As long as it doesn't start with a 7, I think people are okay.
the rates are what they are. And I don't really hear rates as so much of an objection anymore. It's so competitive buying the next house, and we've come up with some solutions to help our buyers, win some offers. But it's not easy. It's not easy being a buyer.
Okay.
I think the one thing that's really helping people right now is the amount of equity. I think I read the other day that half the people that own a house have over 6 figures in equity.
Right.
So some people thought they were never going to get that kind of resale on their house. So they might be willing to take on a higher rate because they're going to pull in so much from selling that first house.
Yeah.
So
No.
I think that's definitely helping people get off the bench.
Yeah, 100%. People have a ton of equity in homes, especially if they bought 2019 and before.
Yeah.
Okay, so now buyers, mindset with buyers. And before I go into mindset of buyers, I call it the 5 Ds. Diapers, divorce, diamonds, debt, and death.
There you go.
5 Ds.
Yeah,
Did you trademark that?
I did not, and I stole it.
it's good.
Let it be known, it was stolen.
For the record.
For the record. Okay, so buyers, what are their mindset? What are they thinking? What are they seeing? What are they doing?
So now that the rates are creeping down towards 6 and below, they're coming out of the woodworks. We said that our pendings right now are a little slow. And we started to trace back. We're trying to figure out why. And we kind of narrowed in and figured out it was the Eagles' run.
Right.
It was cold. The Eagles were having playoff games. Everybody was just so hyped and excited and positive for the Eagles. I think everybody just put it in the back burner. So now that the market's kind of changing, it's getting warmer, people are getting off the sidelines. So we're getting more people. We talked about first-time homebuyer grants. I mean, I know you yourself, I saw you with a $32,000 check the other day.
Right.
If that's not motivation to get a buyer off the sidelines, I don't know what is. I think I even saw you do something where you paid off student debt for a buyer and then also got them $20-ish thousand. So I was a part of that deal. So as I see that, I can articulate to buyers like, hey, there's a way to make this happen.
Right.
There's a lot of different programs out there, and some people really don't know where to start. So we're not huge in advertising with billboards and benches and things like that. And not that there's anything wrong with that. We rely on our sphere of influence big time. Our people that we grew up with send us their friends, family, moms, dads. It's that trust factor. We hung with a pretty big group of guys, and we're still all pretty close, 20 guys. Still hang out, still do fantasy football drafts. And I say that they're the biggest ball breakers out there. The second you see them, they'll make fun of you the whole day. You sit there and question whether that person likes you or not. But then it's like, hey, I'm looking to buy a $600,000 house in Langhorne. Can you help me? And it's like, these guys really do like me. So, I mean, having friends, having family, like, our wives are extremely supportive. Someone has to watch my daughters when we're doing this. Grandmoms come into play. Like, we have a very, very strong network. I know I'm kind of rambling here and why we're talking about buyers, but in order to show all these buyers, we really need all that in place. So trust factor and sharing stories. Like, and they're all not the prettiest stories. They're all not that $700,000 new construction, new build. It's my grandmom's house in Kensington. I didn't think it was worth anything, and I walked away with a check for $62,000. Thanks, George. Thanks, Jeff. So that trust factor, we do take a lot of different deals, a lot of different business, and we're kind of all over the place. But at the end of the day, we do make people happy, and that really helps us get new buyers because of that trust factor.
Okay.
And sharing these stories.
Right. Okay. So now tell me about your team, because I know you guys partnered up, but you also have some staff and also some agents underneath you, right?
So we're really fortunate right now. We have a fantastic team. It's a small group. There's 5 of us, but we're all full-time agents, doing really, really well. And it's took us a while to get here, but we kind of just built that culture, and it's everyone's like thriving. In this market, we have a couple of new agents, and you would think in this market it's hard for someone just starting out. But everyone's doing really, really well, and it's an incredible culture, and we're lucky to have them.
Okay, and I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'll ask for your contact information if somebody wants to get a hold of you, because obviously you list homes, you help buyers, you have a team, that kind of thing. Now, what would you say for your newer agents that you have on your team? What is the number one thing that they're doing that's allowing them to be successful?
I would say, develop a marketing plan and being consistent with it. Don't just host one open house, not get a sale, and then give up. Or don't just, post on Facebook one time and, your phone's not ringing off the hook. You have to make a plan, time block it, put it on your calendar, and be consistent. And I think that's the most important thing.
And we always say, just one more thing to add, is being out and about. We have a new agent on our team named Darnay. She used to work in an Apple store. I think she was actually a manager at the Apple store. She would just talk real estate all day, every day, and got so much business. She was working for Apple, but just like, hey, do you own a house? And just conversations would start. We always say if you're not out and about, and it doesn't mean like out marketing yourself, just wearing a G2Philly t-shirt at a 7-Eleven.
Right.
And some lender comes in and says, hey, I'm Brian Harding with NAF Mortgage. I'm like, we're just talking. He's like, I live in Haddon Heights. I'm like, I have a listing coming there next week. He's like, I'm looking for a new house. Literally sold a house because I wore a G2 Philly t-shirt. Might have been a G2Jersey shirt.
Right.
Not both.
Right.
Yeah.
Regardless. And it's just walking into a 7-Eleven and things like that happen.
Right.
So things like that, just being out and about, not sitting in an office, not sitting in your house, just moving around.
The two biggest things from interviewing hundreds of agents, you guys pretty much hit upon. One, having conversations. You may have to have 100 conversations to find one person who's ready to go. But if you didn't have those 100 conversations, you didn't find that one person who's ready to go. So conversations and then consistency is the second thing. Don't try doing everything. Try to find out what you do best and just work at it, be consistent day in, day out. Do it, and you'll find success. I think one of the biggest things is that it doesn't matter what business you're in. It doesn't matter if you're real estate, loans, anything. It doesn't matter. If you're trying to do 20 different things, you're not going to be able to be great at those 20 different things. So you have to find the one or two things, and those one or two things could be different for everybody because there's a ton of different ways to be successful in real estate. A million different ways. You can knock on doors and be successful. You could be on, social media. You could be on whatever. There's a ton of different ways to do
You
that.
kind of hit the nail on the head with, like, our team. There's only 5 of us right now, but everybody's full-time. Everybody's all in. We see each other several times per week. The synergy factor is just there. So it's when business is slow, or if there is some downtime, we all have things that we do kind of on the outside of our world. Like Ed, he lives in East Falls, Germantown. Every time I blink, he's cleaning up a section of East Falls. They do tree planting.
Right.
We have Darnay. She's involved in this program where she helps people with tangled title, their back taxes, get grants to clean up their properties instead of losing them. George is big on Legacy of Hope. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, not to talk too much about it, but Google Legacy of Hope. They help cancer patients that have literally nowhere to go, can't afford food. They just get out of the hospital going through chemotherapy. George is huge with Legacy of Hope. We also raise money. Kelly's doing something right now where she's raising money for kids with Down syndrome, Special Olympics. So that everybody's doing things on the outside. And that's just when you're doing these things, it's natural to say, hey, what do you do for a living?
Right.
And it just, the more good we do on the outside, I feel like it's just the more people we meet and business grows and we're doing good things at the same time.
Right.
The more you give back, the more you get.
Yeah, and we're all kind of on the same page. We're all looking to do that. And every time I blink, there's a text. Who wants to go to this event with me and volunteer? As much as you would like to do everything, you just can't.
Right.
I just moved to Delran 4 years ago. I blinked and now I'm on the school board. So we're always just getting involved. It's just in our blood. So I think that helps with the synergy level and growing our business too, just because we're always doing other things and meeting new people.
That's great. Okay, so if somebody wants to get a hold of you guys, buy, sell, join a team, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, just go to G2Philly. We're on social media. Jeff George Maynes. You can find us. We're not that hard. And, we're always looking to hire the right full-time agent. If you like what you hear and you want to come check us out, love to have that conversation.
Perfect. Well, that's the Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez. Guys, thanks for being on the show.
Appreciate you. Thanks.
Thanks, Pat.
This is
Appreciate
the
it.
first time I've ever been with Pat, and he did not have a huge 6x2 check.
I can bring the check out.
All right, go get it.
Where's the check?
So that's the Real Estate Show. Be sure to subscribe to the show. It really helps me out. I'm almost at 10,000 subscribers. So you got to get me over the top. Follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. And also leave a comment. Tell me some topics you'd like me to cover in the future. Remember, this show is everything real estate, no limits. Hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank